Just left the anchorage this morning and didn't get very far, and the engine's just cut out. Put 80 litres of fuel in the tanks yesterday. Mind you, I ran the engine for an hour last night and it was all okay, so.
This week you're going to see us going all over the world.
All over the world.
And that's because?
We are in the UK.
Yeah, we're in the UK right now in real time. You're seeing us in real time. We're recording this probably the day before it goes out.
Yes.
So this is where we are right now in the UK. We're visiting friends and family. It's been far too long.
I've been enjoying country walks with my parents, which was really one of the main reasons for coming back, was to spend some time with them. And well, we've been blessed occasionally with very nice days, and they take the opportunity to take me out in the car and we go and visit some of the villages around Saffron Walden.
It's a very pretty part of the world and it's very ancient. Not quite as ancient as some of the places I went to last weekend, but onto that in a minute. So here we are in the UK. We're going to tell you what we're doing in real time. We're also going to continue the adventure in Sulawesi. Where were we last time?
So we are right in the middle of the northern coast. So if you look at a map, it's a region called Gorontalo, which covers both the north and south coast of that top strip, and we're right in the middle.
Yes, and my memory of that was it was very beautiful but very exciting, not always in a good way.
No, you'll find out in a moment.
Before we start the next segment, we do need to say a big thank you, don't we?
Yeah, last week's episode, which we put out at the last minute, really just talked about some of the underwater photography I was looking to possibly submit to the Royal Photographic Society, ARPS, and we got lots and lots of feedback, so we really do appreciate that. I think, sadly, upon reflection and actually getting some of the prints printed out, I've decided not to go for it.
I don't think you should. I think it's the right decision. And I'm still very keen that you do another particular project that came up in Sulawesi.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll return to Sulawesi and undertake that project.
So, that out of the way, that was last week. This is this week. We're going to be talking about Sulawesi, but before we do that, I went to Palma. I'm in Palma, Mallorca. It's where my brother lives. First time I've been here for 40 years. And I don't remember anything about the first visit, but I've got to say it is a bloody beautiful place. As far as I can see, the entire length of the bay here is one big marina. Doge's Palace Cathedral. That's the cathedral, that's the Doge's Palace. The palace is still known as La Almudena, the Arabic word for fortress. But before the Moors arrived, the site was occupied by the Romans, and before them, the Taliots. When Christians overran the island in the 13th century, its Moorish features were mostly replaced by the Levantine Gothic style. And like other historic buildings on the island, it's now a mixture of both architectural traditions. La Almudena Royal Palace is the official summer residence of King Philippe of Spain. Somehow, I didn't see myself bumping into His Majesty. So it turns out all the ruckus that we went past earlier, my brother and I, it's the King of Spain. I've just seen him in the flesh. I was about 5 metres from him, and he's a man and he's shaking people's hands. Well, this is just so very Mediterranean. It reminds me of a number of other places we've been to, including Malta. These very narrow alleyways, high buildings, lovely wind coming through, even though it's 30-odd degrees plus outside. It's lovely and cool down here. To be honest with you, I spent most of the weekend just wandering through the streets and alleyways of Palma. It's the perfect place to get your walking shoes on and soak up the atmosphere. It was hot when I visited, so my guide, apart from Google Maps, was the sun. Each time I turned a corner, I chose the shadiest route. Palma's old town is a maze of medieval streets, housing an eclectic mix of architectural treasures. With foreign investment over the last 50 years, it has become one of the best preserved old quarters in all of Europe. Around any corner is another vintage mansion, a quiet plaza, a shady colonnade or sympathetic modern building, art galleries and museums, some with paved courtyards and elegant entrances. And then, of course, there are the churches. There are churches every 100 metres or so in Palma, and none are more beautiful than this one. This is San Francisco. Easy for me to remember this one. Look, behind me. So I'm going to go there now and have a look. We'll try and get inside if I'm allowed to. So here's the entrance. I went round the corner and in fact I was at the wrong church. They all look so similar. But this one has the most amazing entrance and rose window up here. I didn't go inside in the end, but carried on tramping the streets instead. There were more churches, and we even saw a wedding from the balcony of my brother's flat. No ladies in hats, instead lots of very elegant women in vibrant silk, and men in very smart navy suits. It was a privilege to be somewhere as beautiful but so different to our lives in Southeast Asia. A corner of my soul belongs in the Mediterranean.
If you like what we do, then please do think about subscribing to FTB Mates, or just give us a little donation in the Rum Fund. Don't forget there's Patreon as well. Thank you for your support. Okay, back to Sulawesi. So we're just very slowly tacking our way back across the bay. We've got enough wind to be doing about 1.5–2 knots, which is good. And really what I want to do is take into consideration any prevailing squalls that come through. So ideally we want to get back close to where we were anchored. It's all anchorable here. It's 20 metres now. If we can get a bit shallow, that'd be nice. And stay clear of the spider boats, but get as close to that reef as possible without putting us in danger. So I have to put in another tack.
Well, the anchor's down and the snubber's on after a very gentle tack back to where we started this morning. It's actually quite nice, you know, I don't think we've done that for years, just tacking between 1 and 3 knots. It's nice when we got to 3 knots, but we were quite cautious. Jamie explained didn't want to go too fast just in case we lost the wind entirely, and then we didn't have any kind of propulsion. So just carefully and not going too close to the edges. And yeah, here we are. So obviously no reversing and not able to check the anchor very well, but this morning when I brought the anchor up it was covered in mud and it was very gloopy, quite sticky, so I'm hoping that the anchor will settle and hold pretty quickly. Jamie just needing to look at the engine now. He thinks it's the fuel. Let's hope it's as simple as that. Well, not simple, but let's hope he's identified it and then we can deal with the problem.
Right, so we've got the anchor down, having done a few tacks. We're Got plenty of space around us, which is the most important thing, closer to the reef side for any prevailing winds that do blow through. This is just drop the hook, put the snubber on. Obviously we can't back the boat up, so we just hope it catches. So this is the Raycor filter. This is a water separator. So I've replaced that one, and then we've got the secondary filter, which is actually on the engine. I haven't replaced that in a long while actually, so that's going to be the next thing now, is to take the old one off and put a new one on.
We're at anchor, 60 metres of chain, no engine, and a squall coming through. It's flat, which is great. I think we've got 25 knots.
Something like that, yeah. It's not really an ideal situation to be in, not having an engine, so we're pinning our hopes on the anchor holding us.
So we're still at anchor. Time is now 1:37. Nothing doing yet. We've just got plenty of rain, weather and wind coming through. This is what's going on down here. Jamie's been at it all day. You getting anywhere, Jamie?
No.
So we think it's the fuel, but bleeding it is turning out to be a bleeding nightmare. Tomorrow we're hoping that we're going to get a local mechanic over, and he might have some kind of tool that will help the situation. We just need to get through the rest of today and tonight at anchor without an engine. We will see what tomorrow brings. In the meantime, Jamie's going to just keep on trying, see what happens.
It's now 3 in the afternoon, so I've spent the last 6 hours or so trying to bleed this system. That's what I'm trying to do, but just not having much luck. There's obviously a blockage somewhere, so I'm trying to take each connection in turn and try and access, you know, the hose relevant to between those two sections. But the hose itself is very difficult to get off some of these hose tail fittings. Obviously they've been, I think I probably used a heat gun to put them on, and then hose clamps as well, so to try and get them off is very difficult. It's compounded by the fact that now that this squall has gone over, we have been left with a very rocky anchorage at the moment, so we're beam on to the waves coming in. It's not making it very pleasant working on this, I have to say. Feeling a little bit tired, but I shall continue. Good morning. I think we've mentioned previously how in times of crisis we tend not to talk to the camera because we're too preoccupied, so I thought I'd set aside just a couple of minutes to give you an update. So it's day 2. So we had a squall yesterday afternoon. The boat was fine, but what that did mean was although it blows from over there, the waves end up coming round here. It was very rolly last night. It was quite uncomfortable. Beam onto the waves, and mind you, despite that, I think I got a good night's sleep. I'm not sure, but it was it's a little bit fraught with worry. So the main issue I'm having is that I just cannot bleed the system. So what I'm trying to do is use the lift pump to bring fuel up to the secondary filter. This possibly suggests some kind of blockage between the primary and the secondary filter. Perhaps fuel is coming out the tank, so that's okay. I think I mentioned yesterday as well, one of the problems is trying to get off the fuel hoses off the various nipples, because I don't really want to be using a heat gun on them. So anyway, what we've done is we've actually got in touch with Hendra at Tolly, and he said that he has a contact here who may be able to help. Now this is actually a port. That is one good thing that's going for us, is a port. And Hendra's contact got in touch and has said that he may be able to find a diesel mechanic who could possibly come out and give us some assistance. I feel like we're kind of cheating doing that, but we just got to get on with this and fix it. So Hendra's friend suggested that we He actually got in contact. He said, "Can you move the boat a bit closer to town?" And we said, "We can't. We've got no engine."
My friend from Navy. Yeah.
So they're all aboard. We've got the mechanic, we've got the Navy, we've got Yasin who's put us all together for us, and a couple of other people. No doubt it will become clear who everybody is as the morning unfolds. We're enjoying this flat, calm weather while we can. We've asked the boat to hang off the back so that he doesn't come anywhere too close to the solar panels.
Yasin, could you ask him why they think the engine stopped?
Boleh jelaskan kenapa mesinnya tidak bisa hidup itu? Apa penyebabnya?
Oh, mungkin dia sudah pernah ganti filter mungkin. Dia ada ganti
You
filter.
ever change the filter?
Yes, so yesterday you saw one filter, the old filter. So maybe it was that, and I took that out and I changed two filters, the primary and the secondary. So do they think it's possibly the filter?
Nah, kalau udah ganti filter itu otomatis selang-selangnya itu berisi angin. Itu harus.
When you change the filter, the hoses fill in air.
Yes.
So you must be.
You must make out the air.
Yes. We should explain it's Ramadan. They are not allowed to drink or eat anything. But this guy was drinking diesel. So what he was doing was he was actually taking each hose at each point, which we undid, and that took a bit of an effort to actually take apart those hose fittings. And then he was taking each hose.
Yes.
We finally got Esper sorted and up and running again, so next week we're going to see our continuing adventures. But I think I should just comment on a couple of observations which I'm sure some of you have got. We do have a fuel lift pump which is attached to the ignition, and I think it's probably broken because it wasn't lifting that fuel. But I think the main reason why we had this problem was because after I changed that primary water separator filter, the Raycor filter, I don't think I primed it with enough diesel. So I'd left a big gap of air in that filter system. So you saw me with the sort of the manual lift pump. There was no way that was ever going to lift that kind of fuel. In theory, that lift pump should have pushed some fuel through, but you saw them eventually having to crack open the injectors as well, which is something I've done in the past but didn't do this time around. So, you know, it took two of them a few hours to get it, but I do feel embarrassed that I didn't sort it out myself.
Oh, don't be embarrassed, these things happen.
No, it's just, I was unhappy with my performance that day.
Okay, well, we got it sorted, as we always do, and that's the main thing. So while I was pounding the streets of Palma, you were over here doing some pretty country walks.
I was. I just wanted to end the video with a little photography montage because they seem to be going down quite well, and this is some more infrared stuff. And my parents took me to the neighbouring village of Clavering. Now, Clavering was made famous by Jamie Oliver. That's where he's from, and his parents used to run one of two pubs in Clavering. And the reason why it's such an enjoyable walk is because it is biscuit tin beautiful. That's the only way I can describe it. It's full of thatched cottages and it is extremely English. Did you know that there are 87 grade 2 listed buildings in this one village?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.